That was a little different. And you don't have to, I'm plenty loud without it, so I hear my own echo. Drives me a little bit kooky. Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Sabbath to each and every one of you. We're glad you're here. All right. So do you guys have any nicknames that you still go by today?
Bud.
What do you go by?
Bud.
Bud. What's your full name?
Raymond Tyler.
Raymond Tyler. And I would not have known that. I know you as Bud. That's good. Anybody else have a nickname that they still go by?
How did Bud come out of Raymond?
I don't know. But it works. It works well. Good. Who else has a nickname? Anybody else have a nickname in here?
I have one.
What do you have?
My nickname was Knob.
What was it?
Knob.
Dob?
Knob.
Knob. Oh, I got it as a knob. And that was your nickname. Now, people still call you Knob today.
If I'm using South Carolina, I know some old.
Yeah, some of your old friends.
They make comments.
Right. Anybody else have a nickname that they were called or still called today? Alex? What was Alex's nickname? Sasha. And you still call him Sasha today? Everyone still calls him Sasha except for here.
No, here some too. If you see Sophia, all the time she's calling him
Sasha.
all the time.
Very nice. I did not know that, and here I am. I'm still calling you Alex, Sasha. Oh, go to Wilbur. Butch.
P-U-D-G-E.
And they still call you that today?
My family.
Your family still does. That's interesting. That's fascinating.
When I was born, I was very fat. I was very pudgy.
So the funny thing is, my wife's nickname in high school was Pudge. Yeah. She has sweatpants with it like lettered on it and stuff from high school, stuff like that. So that's interesting. You guys have something in common. Pudge. Both you guys, my wife and you. That's interesting. Okay, that's fun. I think it's fun to think about our nicknames. Now, this one I'm going to specifically ask. We only have a couple of ladies in the house here today, but I was hoping we have a few more. But I'm going to ask this one specifically, so I'm going to put you guys on the spot. And I don't know if you've been married or not, but did you take a new name when you got married? You did. And I think that's a unique experience. I got married. I did not change my name. I'd like to know a little bit, just a couple of things maybe from you, if you want to share something with us. That what are some of the pro things, what are some of the good things that come out of taking a new name when you get married? Anything good come out of it? You get an attachment to the guy next to you. Very good. Okay, get an attachment. Any other thoughts of things? Good, we have got one more support back here. Lisa's back here too. I need some help from some of the ladies who, if they take a new name when you get married, what is a good thing that comes out of taking a new name when you get married? Something positive.
My wife did not want.
She did not want to.
But I had to demonstrate with the Bible, so she eventually took it.
Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. What's a positive thing that comes out of taking a new name? I couldn't hear both of you. I apologize. Now they can spell your last name versus before they couldn't. Okay.
Mine is much easier now, and with the new name, new experience, that's very positive.
Okay. And I think there's a unique thing that happens that as in my role I don't have. You now attach to somebody different. To the point you even change your name to attach to something different. And to me that was important. And leave you as an example, it was very important to you that she connects with you, not just in marriage, in matrimony, but in name also. Interesting. So what's a disadvantage to changing your name when you get married? And it can be for the ladies. I love trying to get them because they have a little bit more logic and because they've lived it. But I certainly open it up to anyone else. What's a disadvantage of taking somebody else's name?
Changing all
The paperwork is painful. My daughter-in-law still has not changed her passport. She was talking about literally within the last couple of weeks saying, I still kind of need to, and her passport hasn't changed yet. Yeah, paperwork, that's bad. What is another disadvantage of taking somebody else's name?
I
think there's things that get lost when you take somebody else's name. A little bit of your heritage. Like when I only know somebody as their married name, they may have a name that I recognize or connect with, but I would never know that. And you go right by that issue because you don't think about it because they have a new name.
Going in history, women who could not give birth a boy, especially on a king or that level,
Sure.
they were in a big trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, historically in the Bible, for sure. Yeah, you had to produce an heir, and the heir was on the patriarch side, even though it was clearly it takes two to make an heir. It doesn't take just one heir, not heirer, but an heir. Right? Okay. All right. Phil.
Sometimes you can take the old name and use it, meaning her maiden name was Goodman, and her grandfather always called her grandmother Mrs. Good Woman.
Ah, that's fun.
So every once in a while I'll refer to her as my Mrs. Good Woman.
Good woman. That's right. That's fun. That's fun. That's a fun little twist. So as we look at this, we have this weird phenomenon. This week's Sabbath school lesson was about a renaming, and we're going to get to that, but we want to build the story up to that point. And so I just want us to be thinking about it because I think the name isn't just, we easily change the name, oh, Jacob moves to Israel, and that's kind of easy, but there's a lot more to it. Just like when you get married, just like there's that new level of commitment of changing your name, changing who you are identified as, and what you do. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the Word. Before we do that, let's ask for a blessing on that so then we can open the Word together. So pray with me. God, again, as we open your Word this morning, we want to hear a little bit more about you. God, and we know it relates to us in some way, otherwise you wouldn't have captured these ideas. Some of these ideas we're going to talk about today are struggles to understand why you captured that little detail for us to understand, but we want to get to know a little bit better and a little bit more about you. That's why we're here this morning. Help us invite the Spirit in. We want to be students of you so that way we can be witnesses about you. So as we study together, may we enrich each other. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. We're going right. So let's first set the stage a little bit, and we're not going to have time to go back and read all of the background of this, but we're going to go to Genesis chapter 32. I encourage you to open your Bibles and follow along because we're going to do some reading because I think it's important that we read because that the words matter that are in these. Genesis is so deep, we're blasting through it at warp speed in 13 weeks. We are not going to be able to get through it all. I'm not going to pretend to cover the whole Sabbath school lesson today. I'd rather dig deep on a few things and get some extra meaning than brush over the top. Just that's where I am. A lot of us have heard these stories before. Let's dig deeper. So we're going to Genesis chapter 32, but we really need to know the story. We kind of got to refresh ourselves. It's kind of like picking up a movie and you haven't watched it in a while and you kind of forget where you are in the plot. We got to know where we are in the plot line in order to be able to kind of get as much out of this one. So it starts with just Jacob is on his way back to the promised land, back to Canaan, right? So, but if you rewind that a little bit, why is Jacob going to Canaan? Does anybody know why is he going? Is this something that he's invented or some reason that he needs to move, or why is he moving back to Canaan? God told him to. Very interesting aspect. Was it God telling him to leave Canaan in the first place? No. Okay? These are critical things to know. What did Jacob leave with when he left Canaan on his own? Birthright. Okay, yeah, birthright. Very good point. That's a phenomenal one. What else did he leave with? Anything else?
Did he leave with?
Yeah, did he take anything else with him?
Not possessions.
What's that?
Not any possessions.
No possession. In fact, he refers to it just as staff.
It was quick and run.
It was a quick run, and he even refers to it as just he left with his staff, right?
He just had what's on his back, maybe
Yeah.
a piece of bread and staff and water.
I'm getting feedback. Here it goes. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to need some help on feed. I just turned it off here, but so I don't get feedback. Okay, so he left with the staff. He's on his way out with nothing. What is he returning with? Right? What is he returning with? Because these are things we need to know, and then we'll dig right into chapter 32 here.
He's coming back and he's bringing
Yeah, he's got wives. Well, yeah, two and two, and he's got a lot of animals.
Creatures and his minions.
Yeah.
Decided to go with him.
What are some other things we learned about that his wife is bringing back that he's not too excited about, but she's bringing back? An idol. Okay. So we know that they've tricked and they deceived his father-in-law, and so all this stuff is going on, and he's going back.
He's coming back with a new name as
We will find out, right? And that's where we started the conversation. That's where we'll end up. So we know where this story ends. It's kind of fun. We know where that's going to go. But let's look at the details of this thing. So let's start in Genesis chapter 32. I'm going to ask for somebody on my right. I'll start over here, Brother Michael. 1 through 8. It's a lot of words. Follow along. Look for the details. And we want to know a little bit more about this story. Go ahead. 32, 1 through 8.
So Jacob went on his way, and the angel of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's camp." And he called the name what name was that place? Manam?
Close enough. Mana, right? Okay. And does anybody have a footnote of what that means? My Bible says that means two camps. Interesting concept. Okay, keep going, Michael.
Then Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, and he commanded them, saying, "Speak thus to my lord Esau. Thus your servant Jacob says, I have dwelt with Laban and stayed there until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, and male and female servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in your sight." And if I make a comment right here.
Yeah, go.
Unfortunately, Jacob is telling Esau, these people to Esau, that Esau is the higher, is the one who is, he's going to be serving him. It seems though, tell my Lord, but actually it's.
I want to touch on that a little deeper after you finish the next couple of verses. Absolutely right, Michael.
The message of return, Jacob said, "We come to your brothers Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." So Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks and the herds, the camels, and the two companies. And he said, "If Esau comes to one camp and attack it, then the other camp, which is left, will escape."
So interesting. He's in a place called Mahanaim, something like that. It means two camps. Interesting. And he creates two camps. Okay, so I don't know which came first, naming or whatever, but that's an interesting thought. But okay, so where you were going though, like go along that thought. So Jacob is trying to reconnect with Esau, right?
Well, one is
And we got to understand the politics and the dynamics that are going on between those two to help understand the story there. So what a little bit about it?
servant of the other.
Okay, so the servant of the other. Why is one a servant of the other? What does that mean?
Well, I'm not sure exactly. One was born and the blessing was that the younger will serve the older.
Who got that blessing? Who got that message? Keep going, get deep because it's going to be important here.
Isaac got the Isaac.
No, but who heard that message from God that who is going to serve who? Do you remember? Huh? What's that? Yes.
Who?
His mom. His mom, while they were in utero, and there was wrestling going on, right? She got two pieces of information. One, you got twins. The ultrasound didn't show it. So she found out she had twins, and the second thing she found out is the younger, or the older will serve the younger. We know that there was favorites. We know that mom favored younger, dad favored older, right? They knew this story. I'm confident that they knew this story. Growing up, they were told, hey, by the way, you know that you're going to serve your younger brother? Do you think that's too far for me to presume, or do you think you guys are in agreement on that? I agree that Esau and Jacob knew that they had been told that prophecy from their mother. And now here comes Jacob back. So had that happened yet? Was Esau serving Jacob? No.
No, and Jacob wasn't serving Esau.
Who got the inheritance when dad died? Esau is living with the inheritance right now. Esau is a rich man.
Yeah, but Esau left. Esau left and went away first, and then Jacob left.
So Esau, though, has been blessed, no doubt, because Jacob left with nothing. Right? Their parents were loaded, right? Parents were loaded. Who's been watching the inheritance? Not Jacob. You agree with that? While they're gone, Jacob has not been watching it. So here comes Jacob back, who has stolen the birthright, has the prophecy.
You can't say he stole it. You can't say that.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I agree with you that. Esau sold it.
He was his mother's kind of flim-flam.
Okay. And it's interesting, so that's why I want to point out a little bit. So what is it that Jacob tells his servants? What are the specific words that Jacob tells his servants to tell Esau? This is what Esau is thinking, right? And Jacob's got to know this. So what specifically does he tell Jacob to tell his servants about, I'm coming back?
That your servant.
He used a very unique word called servant. Why would he do that? Your servant Jacob, wait a minute, I thought I was going to rule you.
And that's what I was mentioning brought up.
So Jacob's trying to send a message. Your servant Jacob. We're not supposed to miss these words. These are important. If you think about the politics that are going on, right? Servant Jacob's coming. What else does he tell them? What else does his servants? He sends a servant ahead. He tells them other very specific information.
He very much knew what he did with his brother.
Yes?
He knew how he deceived him. Okay, it was like a legal transaction, but still, the way he did it, so he was kind of afraid of his brother.
Very much so.
His people said, 400 men are against you now coming.
That's the message that comes back, right?
Well, there's two things, you know. He bought the birthright from Esau.
It's fair. Yeah, I like the way you say that.
A blessing.
Yes.
Sure enough, though, he put on his garb, make him look like Esau, for his blind father to be deceived. But he got the blessings that Esau was supposed to get. But Jacob was supposed to get it, but everything's all messed up. The Lord would have straightened it out.
Yep.
Jacob would have waited around.
If he'd waited to see God's plan, but he took the actions of what God had promised into his own hands and was making it happen. Oh, Michael, what you got?
But actually we had a discussion in Salem of our churches I went to, that Jacob didn't want to do what his mama wanted him to do. Jacob was
He went along with it.
but
He's an accomplice.
Jacob did do what all good people should do. Yes, mother, whatever you say. Yes, father, whatever you say. And he did what she asked him to do to obey his parents, and he went out the way. But then again, the question here is why is Esau coming to meet Jacob? How did Jacob know, or how did Esau know that Jacob was even coming in there?
He knew he was coming because he sent servants saying, I'm coming.
Yeah, but I mean, Esau wouldn't have known it had he not sent.
Yeah, agree. Okay, agree. Okay, what else? But there's some other couple key things we need to understand. He tells them, I'm coming as your servant. That's a key one. What other couple key things does he say? What's that?
He tells him where he's been.
Where he's been. Why is that important?
Because I think Laban he's an elder of the family, right?
Yeah, but
He's a respected member.
who else is Laban?
Uncle, his uncle.
It is his uncle. How is that related together? His mother and Laban, how are they related? Brother and sister.
So to answer your question, I think he's trying to preemptively cut off any conflict with Esau by letting him know that I am your servant and I'm coming with a lot of riches.
So I've been with our mom's brother, right? I've been with family. I've been with Laban. I am coming as a servant. And the other very key thing that he tells them, why would he tell them in verse 5, I have cattle, donkeys, sheep, goats, men servants, maid servants? Is he bragging?
No.
Why? You say he's not bragging. Then why is he telling Esau?
I'm not going back for the inheritance I have.
Yes. I think she's right on.
Spot on. I think so too.
I don't need what you have. I didn't hear it.
I'm not coming back for mom and dad's wealth. I'm coming back as a servant. I've been hanging out with our uncle, and I'm coming back very wealthy. I'm not coming back for what's there. But Esau is still thinking about this. Why is he coming? That's the message that was sent. But why is he coming?
It's interesting that he says, in regards to Esau, my Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. He clearly takes a subservient position and saying, my Lord. He say, you're the master. I'm not coming to do anything that. So very important that we understand that.
Well, see, I think Jacob here is remembering what his mother did, and that he's kind of bamboozled Esau out of his blessings.
Yeah.
So he's just taking the role right now to say, it should be, everything is yours.
Yep.
You should entitled to it, you should have got it, but mom made me do what I did in the trouble.
What's Jacob's name mean? What's Jacob's name mean? What's that? Supplanter. Any other kind of ways to describe that? Because we don't use that word too much. Cheater. I'm a deceiver. Okay, what else do we know about? So he's named the deceiver, the cheater, the supplanter, however you want to call that. And what does he know? What do they both know about their mom? She's also a cheater, deceiver, puts her son up to it, right? Okay. So what do they know about Laban, the brother? So mom and brother grew up together. If mom's a deceiver and a cheater, what are the odds that uncle is a cheater, deceiver?
He just played his same character.
Do we have some good examples in the story? Is Laban a cheater, deceiver?
He's trying to be, yes. We'll get it.
Yes, he is. They are all. What does it say when you're like personalities? You like to hang out together, right? So we've got mom. Or we got however you say, yeah, mom, brother, and son now of the daughter, right? They're all deceivers, cheaters, kind of do that to each other, right? Birds of a feather. Yeah, birds of a feather. I like it. Yeah, that's the way to describe it, right? So we had that. So when Esau hears that I've been with Laban, what is he thinking? Has he been hanging out with the deceiver? You've been hanging out with the family deceivers? I don't know that. I'm just speculating. But it made me think of that.
Well, one of the things you kind of question is that, did he ever see Laban?
Yeah, did he know Laban?
Did he know Laban? Did Laban
Esau? Maybe not. I don't know.
Did he ever see him? Did he ever go over there and make that trip?
Yeah, there's no record of that, right?
Or Thanksgiving and they come back?
Yeah, there's no record of that. But I guarantee you still hear stories from your mom about your brothers and sisters, and that's just part of life. Go ahead, Dave. What do you think?
You know, if you look at his mom and his uncle, they are doing things that the ends justify the means. So they're thinking, well, if I'll get my way if I do these things, and so that's how they influenced Jacob.
Yeah.
And that's how they treated Jacob as far as Laban. And even the brothers the sons of Laban, they're complaining. So everything it's coming back. It's like
Agreed.
birds of a feather.
Agreed. So when I read this, and as we read this, and we say, Jacob sending a message to Esau, my guess is Esau receives that as, this deceiver is now coming to me, and he's telling me all these things and how he's going to come as my servant, I'm the Lord, and that he's really rich and he doesn't need any money. His response and his action says, I may not believe him. We agree with that?
Yeah.
All right, what's his response? The servants come back and tell him. What's Esau going to do? Verse 6. We went to your brother Esau, now he's coming to meet you. And he's bringing a welcoming party.
Like 400 men.
He had 400 men, and that's so they can help carry the luggage.
Yeah. And they all have balloons.
And they all had balloons. Of course they did. They were coming with balloons and some extra carts, and they were going to help carry all the possessions back to Canaan.
The lesson says that his intention was to pay the debt, and to return the blessing that he stole. That's why he said, I have everything, and everything is on you can have it if you want.
Yeah, because basically when you say, I'm your servant, my Lord,
Yeah, that means
everything you
me,
have
everything
is
is
It's yours. Yeah, I'm giving it to you. Those are his words. But the history shows, if I heard that from Jacob and I was Esau, I'm just trying to think of it from Esau's position. I'm not sure I'd be willing to accept that.
You know, it's interesting that Jacob was a wolf in sheep's clothing when he deceived his father.
For sure, literally, yeah.
Literally.
Oh, yeah, literally.
He took on a lamb's, so
Yeah.
a covering, a garment, so that he could trick. Sort of like self-righteousness, right?
Yeah.
But he comes
Through
back
works,
a
puts on his own
changed
robe.
person,
Yes.
and that's because of the struggle.
And the next few verses, we're going to go see some more of that change. Because this is exciting. Not that we understand the Bible only, but it helps us understand some of the changes we are going through. That's what makes this stuff cool.
Eric,
Yeah.
you need to remember that if I'm not mistaken, it's been at least 14 plus years since he's
20. I think it's been around 20 years.
They worked for Labour for 14 years
Yeah.
just to get one wife. 7 whole years to get one wife, and then he got a big gal. And then he gets
Yep,
seven
yep,
more years
yep,
to get
yep.
that one. And then he was there forever, how long it was.
Yeah. I think it's been 20 years since he skedaddled.
This is on one hand, but on the other hand, if we can see how God is working,
Ah.
God also worked on Esau's heart
Ah.
to receive Jacob. It's
Let's
not
read
just-
that. Let's read some of that. Let's go to that. I like that. I'm just going to keep digging into this story a little deeper. So we finished in verse 8. So somebody else, I'm just going to keep coming this way. Maybe David, 9 through 12. So we're in Genesis chapter 32, verses 9 through 12.
And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord which saidst unto me, Return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies, and of all the truth which thou hast showed unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become two bands. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother with the children. And thou saidst, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude.
So he's coming back. Good news is, when he hears this news that Esau's coming, he's bringing 400 men with him. Tell me the good news of that. What is Jacob's response? Where does he go? Goes to prayer. He goes in prayer. That's the good news. I think it's a phenomenal thing when he says, this one's bigger than me, and he goes in prayer.
Don't you think God was allowing this to happen to further test Jacob and bring him to his knees, so to speak, and make him admit what he had done wrong? And, you know, character is what God has those trials and tribulations for.
Absolutely, absolutely. So he does, you could see this thing, he's going to God in prayer, but he prays about a couple things. What are some of the things in his prayer that are maybe interesting or changing? What are some of the things that he reminds God of something? What is it that he reminds God of? His promise. Do you think God has forgotten his promise? Got it? So why is Jacob reminding God of his promise?
He sees death coming.
He sees death coming, okay? Why would you remind God of your promise?
He's still a man. He's still a man with sins and weak. Even after the prayer, he still sends his children and wives first. Even
Okay.
after the prayer.
100% agree with you. So if you look at his prayer is like, okay, Esau's coming. God, remember, you told you told me that you would do this, but then he still goes. And I'm excited that he goes in prayer, right? But even when we, as I think about this, even if I go to prayer, am I still following in faith? And we see Jacob here goes in prayer. It's the right place to go with this one. And I think God wants us to, hey, I'm reminding you, this is your promise, but I'm still going to take action. And the challenge comes is, when is it action versus when is it I'm not being in faith? What is the difference between I'm going to move forward? It says right here, it says your kindness and your faithfulness, you've shown your servant. I had my own staff, I crossed the river, but I'm still going to split up my band. I'm still going to take people. Does God tell him to split up his band? No, we don't have any record of that. So it's
That's not bad.
not a bad strategy, right?
When we pray, it's often to change our attitude, not change God.
100% agree.
Jesus, when he prayed, he wanted to come to pass. When he got through his prayer, he said, "Not my will, your will be done."
Right.
So when we finish our prayer, we need to be in our attitude be good enough to be able to say that your will be done, no matter what I pray.
Excellent. I think that's an excellent point, Wayne. Yeah, Phil.
When you say back to God his promise, it builds your own faith and belief in that promise.
Yes. Yes. And we see that for a purpose, I think. It's a good point. We are supposed to take his promises back to him. I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think to your point, Phil, it's about, hey, I'm not reminding God of his promises. I'm reminding me of his promises. That I need to hang on to those promises. Because those promises, even though what I see in front of me, even though I see 400 men, or maybe it's 401, because it's Esau and 400 men, right? I see 401 men coming at me. Do I still hang on to that promise? Or do I buckle?
Isn't there something said, when you speak something, you will follow that?
Yeah.
Even if you're speaking it in jest, eventually you keep speaking it, you will believe it.
Yeah. Good point. That's an excellent point. That's a nice point.
And he lost connection with his brother and his whole family for so many years. Of course he was afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah, God is there, but my brother is here with 400 men. And what can I do?
And I can't see the balloons yet. I'm sure they're coming, but I'm not so sure. Okay. I think that's fantastic input. So let's keep going, though. So we've got, let's go 13. So we're in Genesis chapter 32, 13, all the way to 21. Let's just chew off that next piece. I have somebody else who'd like to read. I'm going from left to right over here. Nelson, you want to read 13 to 21?
So he lodged there that same night and took what came to his hand as a present for Esau his brother, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 foals. Then he delivered them to the hand of his servants, every drove by itself, and said to his servants, "Pass over before me and put some distance between successive droves." And he commanded the first one, saying, "When Esau my brother meets you and asks you, saying, 'To whom do you belong, and where are you going? Whose are these in front of you?' Then you shall say, 'They are your servant Jacob's. It is a present sent to my lord Esau, and behold, he also is behind us.' So he commanded the second and the third, and all who followed the drove, saying, 'In this manner you shall speak to Esau when you find him, and also say, Behold, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before me, and afterward I will see his face. Perhaps he will accept me.' So the present went on over before him, but he himself lodged that night in the camp."
This is interesting. You had a different word than my Bible has. Verse 20. How does it say? For he thought, I will what for him with these gifts? Appease. Okay. Mine says pacify. That's interesting. So why is Jacob sending gifts?
Okay, but
Straightforward. Why is he sending them?
we look at this from two folds. I am Jacob, and I have done evil, he done bad things, I stole his birthright. I know my brother's irritated at me. I haven't seen him in 20 years. Jacob's been thinking about this off and on, maybe not all the time, off and on about 20 years. And the same thing with Esau. He's dwelling on it too. That little life sucker stole my birthright, maybe I said, and that's what Jacob's thinking. And Jacob thinks the same thing. He's going to get me when he sees me for what I done to him. And so maybe if I send
Okay.
He's appeasing him, trying to appease him with the presents. And who wouldn't be appeased with all
So you're going to appease and pacify. David, I saw your hand next.
So, at first, it was just words.
Yeah.
Thy servant is coming to meet you. Then, what is he following up with? Action.
Yeah, I like it.
Don't hold anything if there's not action.
Yep, I love it. I love it. That was a great comment. I thought I saw Jason. Do you have another one or no?
Oh, I was just
Okay.
The prayer and faith does not stop you to be strategic. This is Jacob. He's working in strategy as all his life. Now check out the
That's a good way to say that. This is another strategy. Yeah.
Check Esau mind.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill him. And then he see the first
First 200. Yeah.
And he said, maybe I'm gonna punch him. And so the second one. And then the children, maybe I forgive him.
Yeah. Yeah. So is this a good strategy? What do you guys think? How do you think did this influence Esau? I got a comment in the back first. Sonia.
The last time he saw his brother, what did he do? You know, so when they saw each other 20 years ago, he did something very bad. Now he's going back and he's trying to
Yeah.
show that there is change, that
Yeah.
he's a different man.
I think I'll boldly say he wronged his brother, right? When he left, the last thing he skedaddled in a hurry because he knew Esau was coming after him. That was the last experience. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Would you say something else, Jason? Or?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, of course, he is anticipating what his brother's anger is, and that's why he seeks to appease him
Right.
with A, servitude, but B, presence.
Yeah.
Letting him know that I'm not coming for any of the birthrights. But it's also important. I know we haven't got there yet, but it didn't work. It was God.
So I want to go there. I want to touch on that one. Is it gifts or is it a bribe? Is it gifts or a bribe? And is there a difference?
Yes, it's a bribe gift.
Is it a bribe or is it a gift?
I think it's both.
You think it's both?
I think
A bribe gift.
it's a gift. But
Okay.
remember this. The way God works with us also, doesn't he try to convince little by giving us evidence?
A little bit more evidence of what we heard. Okay, I like that.
Not only for us to come to repentance,
Yeah.
but also for like Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Think about it. He gave one thing, hey, he didn't accept it. Next it gets harder and harder, where it gets more sincere, more sincere.
Yeah. So do you think Esau needed the money when he started seeing money coming at him?
No, I don't think he needs.
No. Okay. So a whole lot of thought because then I'll finish that up. Nelson, get something else.
Well, God told him at the end of his prayer, I've got you.
Yeah.
Right? So he should, where was his faith?
Yeah, that's just the time to sit down, kick your feet back. God's got this. He shouldn't have sent that. He should have kept it himself. God's got it.
Esau got another blessing from Jacob. He just didn't get the one he was supposed to get first.
Okay. Yeah, he did, but yeah, it was. Yeah, they still felt wrong. Did I see another? Okay. All right. So is it a bribe? Is it to convince him? When somebody is extremely wealthy, and you give them $20, what does that mean?
Got 20 more than half.
No, you have 3-5 Ferraris, a few Lamborghinis, and somebody comes, I want to give you like 5 or Ducatis. So
Yeah. What does it mean?
Or-
What does it really mean? What does it really mean? So I'm not sure where Esau is on this one, but you got to put that in perspective. When you're a wealthy person and there's another wealthy person giving somebody else more money, yeah, okay.
It's possible he thought of it as a debt. He owed Esau this amount, and he's paying back a debt with interest.
Very possible. That's a great concept, a different angle. I love it.
And I believe those 20 years changed him so that he was actually giving from his heart.
Jacob.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to unravel here. What's the motivation? Okay, so
Saying that he owed Esau, but when he left, he didn't take anything with him.
he didn't take anything with him, but he's coming back. Why is he coming back? That's a mystery. Yeah.
It's showing that because Jacob left without anything, and when he shows that I got a lot of stuff too. So I'm not here for your
Right.
I have stuff. I don't need any of yours.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. That's what he's trying to convince him.
Alex said I have to translate.
In Romanian, yeah.
Yeah. So they were.
Meaning Sasha.
Sasha, yes.
Okay, thank you.
They were up to fight and to kill each other when they were young. Now
Yeah.
they are older, they're soft.
Yeah, a little age knocks a little chips
yes,
off the shoulder,
exactly.
maybe.
I might be jumping in again, but to piggyback on what Jason and Wayne were saying, the lesson here for us is there is nothing that we can do to pay our debt. It's almost a salvation by works is what he's going with it. Like they said, it doesn't work. It's only through God, right?
I think that's the deeper meaning. I want to dig a little bit deeper. So I hope everyone heard that one, because I think there is something in there about works versus faith, and which of these pieces is works. And it's confusing to me which of these things were God inspired, which of these things were from his heart, which of these things were done in works in the spirit. And I'm not sure we'll ever know all these until we get to talk to them personally. But it's an interesting puzzle that we're trying to put together here. So let's dig just a little bit more so I can at least try to get through this story. Because the next thing that happens, Jacob has now positioned himself with his strategy. He's got his forward deployed money going towards Esau to bribe, appease, convince, pacify, and whatever other version Nelson had there, headed out to him. He splits his camp. It's interesting how he splits his camp, right? Still favorites. He doesn't intermingle the camps. He splits the camps. These two this way, these two that way, right? And we'll go into that here. So, but he goes across the stream, and then he brings back. It's interesting. Why would he go across the stream and then come back? Why is that in the story? I won't go too deep into that one, but just interesting, these little details. So let's pick it up in verse 24, and I'm just going to pan across here. Somebody else, Phil, maybe you could read for us. 32, let's go 24. Let's go all the way to 31, then we'll unpack that.
I can do that.
Okay, you got that, leave you? Okay, that's fine.
32, 24?
32, 24, yeah, because now he split his camp, he's got the wives out, he's crossed the stream, come back. What's Jacob up to now?
So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip.
So there's a lot of pronouns in here. Can you help me on verse 25? Who's the man? Is that Jacob?
No, someone else.
Okay, someone else.
Yeah. So when
The man saw that he
could not,
overpower him. So the he and the him, is that the same person?
yes.
Huh? Is it? Okay. Okay. Go ahead, finish reading it, but ponder on that for a little bit as we look at these pronouns. We can get a little confusing. Go ahead. Keep going.
He touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so
Yep.
that his hip was wrenched, and as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." The sun rose above him, and he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon.
Okay. So he's and hims and thems and they and the man, and it gets confusing in here as we look at the detail a little bit.
And then
Who's doing what to whom,
struggle
right?
with God and humans.
Yeah. So it gets a little good. Michael, got a comment?
There's a little Jacob's struggling with God, we know that.
So we know that now, okay? But who's Jacob struggling with? Does Jacob know who he's struggling with?
But the Bible says he couldn't overpower him.
Couldn't overpower him, so he was disadvantaged.
God could whoop up anybody he wanted to, even Jacob at that. And I'm just saying, I think he come down to the level of the human and they struggle together for, and just say things like you trying to wrestle someone all night long. Now that's 12 hours.
That's a long time. I'm tired by the time I go to bed, let alone then stay up all night wrestling. So let's think about that a little bit. Jacob goes specifically to be alone. Why is Jacob going to be alone? To pray? To not be with either party in case they get attacked? Right? So the strategy is if I wipe out this camp, maybe Esau will be satisfied and he'll turn around and go home, not knowing there's another camp that'll keep going. Right? That's the strategy. So is he like leaving both of them, saying, look, you guys are on your own. I've given you the best that you can do, but I'm out of here because if he finds a camp, he's going to wipe them out, and I'll be out.
Or he's waiting on me, so he'll just wait there till I get there.
So if he attacks one camp, then I'll go to that camp because then the other camp will be known that he's free. That's a strategy.
He's after me.
It's a good strategy.
He'll let everybody else go. He's after me. He won't mess with anybody.
Why is he going back across the stream to be by himself? Is it deceit? Is it strategy? To pray.
Pray and cross back over.
We see that he's specifically going back, right? So Jacob was left alone. And all it does is it skips to us then. And a man wrestled with him till daybreak.
You know, we can't hardly wrap our brain around that.
Yeah.
Let's say that God was in the form of Jesus when he wrestled with Jacob. Can you picture Jesus wrestling all night with somebody, rolling around?
Yeah, what kind of wrestling is it? Tag, you're it, I'm running away? Or are they laying on the ground like rolling around? In your mind, what are they doing right now?
I picture they're rolling around on the ground.
You're rolling around the ground, okay?
Yeah, that was for sure.
When I was young, it was pretty common getting a wrestling match with somebody. Back
Yeah.
in the 50s, or
And how long would it last?
until somebody gave out.
But duration of time, how long was it? Probably somebody.
Probably 5 minutes.
Yeah, probably 5 minutes, right?
And so that would be a pretty bad exhaustion, but it's just hard to relate to Jesus wrestling around on the ground with somebody all night. And also, he matched his power. In other words, Jacob couldn't win,
You couldn't win.
but Jesus didn't overpower him. He matched his strength so that Jacob had to strain.
Yeah.
So he spent the night straining.
Yeah. I'm thinking Jacob was a good deceiver. He probably had a couple good moves, right? He'd been studying a little bit. And he knew a couple takedowns or something like that. Was that?
He was doing something in
Yeah, he's doing some mixed martial arts maybe. He'd been pulled from the Orient. Okay, maybe. So we don't know, but this is a weird story. Because physically, I couldn't wrestle all night.
It was
I guarantee if I'm really wrestling, I'd be exhausted. If I made it 5 minutes or 15 minutes, I'd be amazed.
It was night.
It was nighttime.
They couldn't see very well each other.
We do get that information, right?
So
So maybe it was a hide and seek kind of game. Like, also now I'm hiding behind a tree, but I can't see him, and all of a sudden, boom, they're back at it again. Okay.
That's possible. That's possible.
Maybe. Go ahead, Nelson.
There was spiritual wrestling as well. I mean, we agreed that he went to pray
Yeah.
at night.
not only spiritual.
He was terribly afraid. He was seeking God's, blessing, seeking His presence, seeking His comfort, seeking God. And we were told that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principle. That's talked about.
Yeah.
But it works
Yeah.
the opposite as well.
Yeah.
And so he was wrestling with God in spirit. Not
Interesting.
physically,
So maybe it was a battle of wits. They were sitting down and asking each other questions, and that was it.
To further Nelson's point, yes, I think it was both. But when he says, "Let me go," that they break it, he knows now that it is the angel of the Lord that he's wrestling with.
So, okay, so let's follow that train of thought. So when he first gets attacked, who does he think it is?
A stranger.
A stranger. Who else does he think it could potentially be?
Esau.
What's that? Esau, or one of Esau's men. It could be one of them, right? Who else does he think it could be? Thieves, robbers, somewhere out there, you're out in the wilderness kind of crossing through?
Nobody good.
Nobody good, because they jumped you in the middle of the night, right? They're not coming for some water.
In the middle of this wrestling match, he realizes that it's
How?
the angel of the Lord.
How?
That's
Yeah. So we see the end game, right? We see the end game. So, but what changes during this wrestling match? What?
He touched his hip and got another joint, so Jacob.
So it was the hip touches when he knew the change was what you're proposing. So the hip touch is what convinced him, I'm not wrestling with.
See, I can understand that a little bit, but if he's handling you all night long, you'd be like fell all apart.
Yeah, I get bruises and dirt in my forehead.
On the shoulder, your arm would fall out of joint, and you touch him on the hip, just his hip. Why did he touch him in his hip?
We don't know.
Yeah, there was some custom about the hip. That wasn't the first time Abraham had some agreement where they touched the inside of the hip, and I can't.
Oh, you put it on his thigh. You put and then they do that again with the blessing. You put it under the thigh. Yeah.
I can't help but relate the two.
Yeah. We don't know how that wrestling match, and you got to puzzle a little bit and say, why is that piece of information left out? What is the purpose of not knowing? So we don't know?
To prevent a distraction.
Could be a distraction in the story. I like that. Why don't we know? So if you had the opportunity this week to read any of Ellen's words around this one, what does this wrestling match represent? We got a couple hands going up. David, you want to give a shot?
So, well, can I back up just a second? Rod sent me something he wants to share.
Okay.
He's watching online. And this is basically...
Hey, Rod.
He said, I'm watching online and would like to make a comment. It's interesting how God encourages us to solve our problems that we have received by the sins we commit. Jacob ran away and lived with Laban.
Ooh.
While he was afraid of Esau, then he realized he was afraid of Laban's children, and so God tells Jacob to go back to his parents' house and says that he would be with him. God didn't promise that everything would be all right, but he promised to be with him. During this process, Jacob has to face what always made him run away, fear. In the end, he understands how important it is to trust God, not because everything will be fine, but because in the midst of hard trials, God will be with us.
Thank you, Rod. That was very good. Nelson, comment.
And then for the great controversy, she writes, like Jacob, all are wrestling with God.
Oh.
Their countenances express their internal struggle. Paleness sits upon every face, yet they cease not their earnest intercession. Jacob's experience during that night of wrestling and anguish represents the trial through which the people of God must pass just before Christ's second.
Whoa. Let that sink in a minute. Maybe we're not told. Let me go further than that. I said, I think after reading that this week, I was like, it dawned on me, we're not told the details of it because this is a symbol. This is something we can look at and relate to and say, I too wrestle with God. And each one of us in here, I'll propose and say we have, if we've either are or we have in the past or we're going through it right now, we wrestle with God with something. And I think this specifically doesn't tell us so that we can see the story the way it progresses and we're not distracted by what's going on in the detail and minutia. Each one of us wrestles with God in our own way and our own reasons. And we can gain from this, and because I got so little time to do this, the gain from this is just saying this is too like the end of time. We are going to wrestle, we're going to try to do things. I think we should do works during the end of time. We should be out there doing things. We got to caution our motives just like Jacob did. Are we doing it because we're relying on the process? And if I rely on the process, does that mean I'm lazy because I rely on God's promise? Or do I go to action? But is my action to be driven to what my heart's desire is, what God's heart's desire is? And I think we are supposed to ponder those things as we read through this story so that we can think about those as we take those actions, as we move forward through this time of trouble. Is God going to deliver us through? We can stand on that promise strong. Do we need to take action? Yes, we do. But let's wrestle with when we do those. Are we doing what God is asking us to do? Are we moving in the direction He wants us to go? That's why I think we don't know the details. We too are going to go through a night. It's coming quickly. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for the details you give us in your word. And I thank you also for the details you don't give us in your word to cause us to stop and to ponder and to understand a wee bit more about your plan, your love, and your grace. God, you beautifully brought Jacob through this time in a way that would never have predicted. I know you will take us through this time also. We thank you for that. We stand on this promise. May we earnestly come to you with our prayers and petitions in our own private time, just like Jacob has done, so we can see your fulfillment and continue to gain the strength we need as your soon coming approaches. May we be found in your service when you come. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, everybody.
Eric, question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think the reason he gave him the hip issue so he'd never remember, he'd never forget?
He would never forget.
So he'd always have a reminder of who he fought that night?
Now, I think he gave it to him so that when Esau saw him coming, he wouldn't sucker punch an old guy that had a limp. You like that one, Michael? Maybe? Maybe that's why? He can't.